Greetings, everyone. This is the first call for Content Evolution New World 2024. And I'm Kevin Clark. Mike McGuire, my co-host. How are you, my friend?
I'm well. How are you, Kevin? Our first meeting of the 2024. So
Yes, it is.
glad to be here and to see
Well,
everybody.
really happy to have you with us. We have our most popular, right? And I think most frequent guest with us today, Kyle Shannon. Kyle has been doing a lot in generative AI, and he has something that I consider, having helped start, right, the curriculum for integrated marketing communications probably 30 years ago, right, for undergraduate and graduate students around the world. That what Kyle's going to share with you, if he had been able to show this to us, we would have said, oh, well, forget the curriculum, right? Here it is, right? But without any further ado, let's have Kyle share something that he has crafted that I think is an important contribution to marketing communications and to the general notion of how to share authentic narratives with folks. Kyle, I'm going to spotlight you. We will get to comments soon enough. I would appreciate it if you would just kind of unpack what Storyvine AI is first, and then we'll open it up to discussion as you unpack segments. Make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I'll give a little bit of background. So for those of you that don't know me, my name's Kyle Shannon. I'm the founder and CEO of Storyvine. Storyvine is an 11-and-a-half-year-old company that up to this point has been primarily a video storytelling platform. We figured out a way to automate video production. We work primarily in the healthcare and pharma space. Our clients use Storyvine for everything from patient stories to doctors talking about conditions, to sales reps doing personalized video outreach to individuals. I'm hearing an echo. If people who aren't talking could mute, I think that might help.
I'll go ahead and take care of that.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's much better. Kevin's been an advisor for most of the time for Storyvine. So we've talked about what it is and what it can do and the power of storytelling and the power of being able to scale storytelling. And as some of you know, I have been near pathologically obsessed with AI for the past year or two. And what's been fascinating about it is it probably took me 6 months after the release of ChatGPT to get my head around it enough to even think about how it impacts Storyvine. It was very separate from Storyvine. And then it probably took another 4 or 5 months to really understand how these capabilities could not only integrate with Storyvine, but could amplify the things that I think are going to be more important in the future, and not throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? So just finding that balance of how you take these new technologies and integrate them, even though I've been thinking about this stuff a lot, has taken essentially the better part of a year. And so for me, I think every single organization, every single individual, how they get to understand what AI makes possible and how to then integrate that into their business, it's going to be a complicated journey. So with that's sort of been the history of how we get here. So let me share my screen. I need permission to do that, Kevin.
I have granted permission. Try it again.
There we go.
And by the way, while Kyle is bringing something up on the screen, Kyle is also the Chief Generative Officer for Content Evolution. With our thanks, we have a lot of innovation en route because of what Kyle has been doing with members of our team, including my co-host Mike McGuire. So thanks much for that. Okay.
Yep. Really excited about what we're up to. We've got some exciting things coming in 2024, so it's going to be good for everyone involved with Content Evolution. Okay, So what we're calling this new technology is the authenticity engine, transforming real stories into rich content with AutoMagic AI. The AutoMagic is something, some branding that we've used really since the beginning of Storyvine. We called it AutoMagic Video Editing, and so we're carrying that brand forward with AutoMagic AI. But the idea of the reason we went with the name the authenticity engine, if I look at what Storyvine does today, there are a couple of major value propositions of it. One of them is automation. So we created a platform, 11 years ago that takes some inputs from an iPhone app or an Android app, sends those assets up to the cloud, and automatically edits together a video. As we move into a world where almost everything is going to be automated with AI, the value of automation, relatively speaking, goes down. It essentially drops to zero. So that's not a good thing. That said, what Storyvine's really known for is authentic narrative, well told at scale. I think the value of authenticity in a world of infinite content generation goes up dramatically. And so a big part of what I'm looking at is there's some magic of automation that's still there, but I'm assuming at this point that's just table stakes from a brand value proposition, but the authenticity goes up. So the idea here is that everything that we're doing with AI isn't in a vacuum. It's at the service of telling authentic stories in a more diverse way. To just give you a little background on what Storyvine is and how it works, if you don't know it, we've got an app, and the app serves as a virtual director. So prior to someone filming a video, we've already determined what's the kind of story that we want told, and we create a template for that. And the template includes a set of prompting questions that we call the video guide, and it includes the look and feel of what that video is going to look like. So the end user doesn't have to know anything about video storytelling. They're literally just answering a series of prompts one after the other. They hit the upload button. Those raw clips get assembled into a fully edited video within a few minutes automagically. And then there's a back-end management system where you can manage all of that content. You can view the videos, you can fix typos, you can download individual clips, you can approve them, things like that. And then once the videos have been approved in the back-end system, you can share them out, and different kinds of stories are good for different audiences. So in the case of healthcare and pharma, they call marketing promotional. So this is patient stories, physician stories. Personal, basically, that's the personalized video where salespeople are creating personalized video messages for doctors. And then internal is, executive communications, thought leadership, employee engagement, things like that. So anywhere where you've got a replicable story to tell, you can tell it with Storyvine in video in this very authentic but highly structured way. A year and a half ago, we did a project with Novartis that started as a single brand and then grew to 5 brands, and then actually got rolled out across their entire oncology division, where we trained up more than 700 sales reps. And those sales reps, in about a 3 to 4 month period, filmed and shared more than 5,000 videos. We have permission to share all this from Novartis, but it really is the kind of platform that allows you to scale this kind of video storytelling. Okay, so that's what Storyvine is right now. Here's the new stuff. So the authenticity engine, and rather than show you a demo slide here, I'm actually going to just demo this live. So let me hop over to here. And so this is a functional proof of concept, but it's getting there. It's pretty exciting stuff. So you put in, your video name. We'll just say test video, and my email, and maybe a tracking number, 15 and then I select the video to upload, and let's grab this one here. The video gets popped into the system, and immediately you see over here to the right, it says our notes are hard at work. So the system is automatically analyzing this video, and it starts a cascading series of events. So within, whatever that was, 15 or 20 seconds, I've got a transcript of what this person is talking about in the video. There's now analysis being done where what are the narrative chapters of this video, as well as the title and description for the video are being generated. So that should populate here in a second. So there's the Beverly's journey to support. This personal story of Beverly, whose challenging journey began with complicated emergency and delivery, leading to her son's extended NICU stay, right? So it tells the story of the video. It emphasizes the key messages of the video, and then it actually chapterizes it and breaks the story down into the narrative sections based on what she said, right? Not based on anything that's there, but based entirely on what she said. And I can jump to any of these clips. So if I click on any of these, it jumps to that section of the video. I can then download those individual clips and remix them. So within whatever that was, under a minute, I now have not just metadata about this video, but I understand what this story is at a meta level, and I can do that for every video in the system. I can also do that for videos that were generated outside of Storyvine. So this is a platform now that can extend beyond working with Storyvine. There are some very good reasons, which I'm about to get into, why you would want to create stories within Storyvine, because it's modular. The flexibility of what you can do with this capability goes up kind of dramatically, but you don't have to. So that's that phase. So now that we know what this story is, now we can generate other kinds of content. So I'm just going to say generate all here. And right now, in its proof of concept form, we're doing a blog post, we're doing Twitter post, hashtags, and pull quotes, interesting things that Beverly said in this video. But this content is being, generated, dynamically, right now in real time, essentially. So hashtags postpartum support, preeclampsia awareness, NICU journey, premature birth, self-care, family care, right? So all of that stuff that you would take 15, 20 minutes, an hour to sort of pull out of this thing, bang, it's instantly done. Now, are these perfect? No, but does it give you a hell of a starting point? Yes. And then here are tweets. I don't know, that one's still working. This is the one that kind of blows me away the most. So the backend technology we're using here is GPT-4. So this is OpenAI's, top of the line model. The writing is quite good. So Beverly's journey through postpartum challenges, a tale of resilience and support. So we prompted this in such a way that what it generates here, it's as if a reporter sat down with Beverly, interviewed her, and then wrote the piece, right? So in an intimate narrative that underscores the complexities of motherhood and mental health, Beverly shares her story, which began joyfully in 2015 with the birth of her son, but quickly turned into an ordeal of emotional turbulence. Beverly's experience was far from serene and blissful maternity period often depicted in the media. She recalls, quote, "My pregnancy and delivery were quite complicated with preeclampsia, prompting an early delivery at about 32 weeks." So it's actually quoting her in this piece, right? So again, you go from just having a video you may not have even watched to sort of immediately understanding what this thing is and having the ability to expand, significantly beyond just having the video as the artifact from this interaction. The tweets, seeking out support, changed the entire dialogue, discover Beverly's journey and how she found a framework to manage her symptoms. We've got an example URL in there. We've got hashtags in there. So it's writing fairly sophisticated tweets. The quotes are, we have beginning and end times of the quotes, the duration of the quote, what was actually said, and then even a title for it. So what this is going to allow us to do is, just like we have these chapters, we're going to be able to take these pull quotes and automatically pull that video out of the system auto-magically. So that's the authenticity engine proper. And so we're now looking at, okay, we can generate all of this stuff instantly, this world of content around every video in the system. what are the other things that we can do with generative AI to solve some problems our clients have and really extend what Storyvine makes possible in terms of expanding and extending authentic narrative. So I'm going to jump ahead a couple of slides here. I'm going to go to this one. So one of the things that we can do now is we can do translation. And you're like, oh, but Kyle, we've seen translation before. Of course you can do translation. But no. You likely haven't seen this. All right, so here's Ellen.
My greatest source of support living with rheumatoid arthritis has been speaking with other people about what they've gone through, reading a lot about the effects of rheumatoid arthritis.
You can hear that, right? Is the audio good? Okay, great. And so what you may not know is Ellen is also fluent in Spanish.
Mi mayor fuente de apoyo viviendo con artritis reumatoide ha sido hablar con otras personas sobre lo que han pasado, leer mucho sobre los efectos de la artritis reumatoide.
So Ellen is not actually fluent in Spanish. Well, she might be, but we don't have video of that. So this was generated with generative AI. Now, the nature of how we construct Storyvine videos, they're modular. So we have all of the individual segments without any of the graphics on it that we can translate from English into Spanish. We can also take all of the on-screen graphics and we can translate those from English into Spanish. And then using Storyvine, we can reassemble all those piece parts. So we can go from having a fully English video to a fully Spanish video in a very, very short amount of time for not a lot of money. So here's the fully assembled video of Ellen speaking Spanish.
Hola, mi nombre es Ellen, soy de Bellevue, Washington, y me diagnosticaron artritis reumatoide hace unos 22 años. Estoy más apasionado en mi vida por mi familia. Tengo una hija de 20.
So notice that the lower third graphics in Spanish now, right? So this is, you know, a fully integrated translation. If your question is, are the translations any good? The resounding feedback that I've gotten is yes, and it's, well, you'll see as we move into some of the other ones. So I can now take this Spanish video, I can then put that back into the authenticity engine and generate that whole world of content now in Spanish, right? So I can do this for any language. In fact, I can now do this for 27 different languages. So here she is speaking Hindi.
नमस्ते, मेरा नाम एलन है। मैं बेलव्यू वॉशिंगटन से हूँ। 22 साल पहले रेमटॉइड आर्थराइटिस का निदान हुआ था।
Here she is speaking Japanese.
こんにちは、私はエレンです。ベルビュー出身で22年前にカンチャリウマチと診断されました。私の人
And again, notice that the transcriptions here are in the native language. So again, that idea of being able to very, very quickly go from one market to multiple markets is I wouldn't say it's trivial at this point. You still have to check all these things, but the barrier to entry to being able to enter different markets with this kind of narrative storytelling just absolutely has been transformed. Okay, so there's a fairly major problem solved for international organizations, and I think just content creators in general, if you could enter a new market without it being a major lift, would you do that? Well, yeah, possibly so. So that's now possible. One of the other things that our clients face is they'll say, hey, we really like the Storyvine approach, but we've already got some stories, but we don't have them in video. We don't have the video assets. So maybe they have an audio recording of an interview, or maybe they just have text stories that have been written about patients. So how do we deal with that? So what we can do now is we can take some other technologies and we can take, say, a photograph of Ellen and a recording of her, and we can stylize that photograph to look, like a piece of, hand-sketched artwork, and we can bring an audio file to life and generate one of these videos from just audio files.
My greatest source of support living with rheumatoid arthritis has been speaking with other people about what they've gone through, reading a lot about the effects of rheumatoid arthritis.
What we can also do is I could take, 10 or 15 seconds of an audio recording of Ellen, do a similar thing with the image and synthesize her voice, and then take just a text version of her story and bring that to life as well.
Hi, I'm Ellen. Despite living with rheumatoid arthritis, I've discovered a passion for water skiing and interpretive dance, which bring joy and a sense of freedom to my life.
The water skiing and interpretive dance, that was my touch. I wanted to put something in here that was humorous but wouldn't offend someone in healthcare and pharma. So, the rheumatoid arthritis person getting into water skiing, I thought was funny. But again, now this opens up an entirely new world of being able to repurpose content that you've already got and bring that to life in a different way and sort of run it back down the gauntlet of all this, additional storytelling around this. And then the final challenge we face, I'll share. I won't share the company because it's just not a good thing. We're working with a company right now, and what they hired us for was to tell patient stories. We're at the end of our second year with them. They have yet to contract a single patient. It's not that they can't find the patients, it's just that they haven't gotten the contracting done with the patients. So we're 2 years into this project. They've paid for Storyvine for the storytelling platform, and they have nothing to show for it. And so when it comes to renewing the contract, if you've paid for something for 2 years and have nothing to show for it, that becomes an increasingly challenging conversation. And it's not an uncommon thing that finding people to tell their stories is one of the big hurdles for doing something with Storyvine, particularly when it comes to, a regulated environment, patients, HCPs, things like that. So what if we didn't have to? What if we could say early in the process, we're going to sit down with you, we're going to build this storytelling framework, you're going to start your contracting process, but in the meantime, we're going to develop some personas. So we're going to use generative AI. We may not say it like that, but we're going to use generative AI to create a persona framework. We're going to then create, I don't know, a dozen different personas out of that framework that mentions, their educational background, their social background, what's going on with them health-wise, their demographics, age, things like that. We can then bring those personas to life in a very similar way that I just showed you. So here's a persona, a completely invented persona brought to life using these technologies.
Hi, I'm George Miller. My life's always been about simple pleasures, cooking my catch of the day and enjoying the quiet of the country. There's nothing like the peace of fishing at dawn or the aroma of a home-cooked meal. But when I was diagnosed with diabetes, everything changed. Suddenly, the foods I loved needed rethinking, and my days had to be planned with care. It was a challenge. But I've learned to adapt, finding new ways to enjoy my passions while managing my health. Life's different now, but no less rich.
And so that's the patient version, and then here's George's physician.
Hello, I'm Dr. Emily Park. As an endocrinologist specializing in diabetes, my approach goes beyond traditional treatment. I'm deeply committed to empowering my patients, integrating medical care with lifestyle changes. It's a journey we take together, and seeing my patients regain control of their health is incredibly rewarding.
And so one just little curious tidbit about this. So the cadence of how these two people talk is actually mine. So I used a technology here called speech-to-speech synthesis, where I actually recorded, I had ChatGPT write the script where George's persona answered a series of Storyvine questions. I then read that script and recorded it and then swapped out his voice for mine. And then I did the same with Dr. Emily Park. So I'm providing the cadence. So that's why it doesn't sound so robotic and stilted, because it's actually a recording of a human, but then we're swapping out the voice with another voice. So those are the major new things we've got. We've got the authenticity engine, we've got the video translation, and then we've got this ability to bring other kinds of storytelling to life and generate video where otherwise there was nothing. We purposefully chose to do the style of the things where we're not where it's not real video as drawings or paintings, just to differentiate them, to say, you know, we could do these as photorealistic, but they look a little weird and uncanny valley. And because we're doing them as you know, illustrations, I feel like we have a bit more leeway, that it doesn't have to quite be perfect. What I can tell you is that the speed with which these technologies are improving, anything that feels stilted and weird right now, probably within 6 months is not going to feel like that, certainly within a year. So with that, that's what I've got to share. So I would love to hear your thoughts. And
Kyle, you know, first time I saw this, I said, that is so cool. Right? Now, because we had seen inside of Content Evolution Collab, we had seen pieces of this start to manifest, you know, the translations, you know, in fact, a lot of the stuff that we were doing mechanically and, you know, assembling using a variety of different, you know, tools to get at the AI and automate things became easier and easier.
Yeah.
I mean, Asimov says that anything that is, you know, sufficiently advanced technologically appears like it's magic.
is
Right?
indistinguishable from magic. It's one of my
Yeah,
favorite.
and so this is pretty close.
Yep.
What is the level of complexity behind what you're showing us? Right? I mean, you've got some mastery here, but you know, pull the curtain back just a little bit.
Yep, the mastery right here is kind of knowing what tools are available. It is so that entire presentation with all of that content, I built all of that probably within a 2-hour window.
Okay.
So, and that includes generating the images, generating the audio files, generating the animations, building the PowerPoint thing. So, you can use ChatGPT to do things like create personas, answer questions, anything text-based, I use ChatGPT. Anything audio-based, I used something like 11 Labs, where you can synthesize, you know, like that's where I synthesized Ellen's speech. 11 Labs was where I did the speech-to-speech swapping. And then there are tools like HeyGen and D-ID that do the animated, they'll take a still image. So the still images were generated with DALL-E. So that's within ChatGPT, you can generate images. So I literally, for Ellen, I uploaded her picture into DALL-E. I said, describe this in as much detail as possible. Now turn that into a charcoal drawing. Now turn that into a watercolor. So I just did a handful of them till I found ones I liked. And then I just sort of assembled them together.
Yeah, so,
like it's trivial.
So you
It's
did
trivial.
it quickly, but there was 9 months of learning,
Yeah.
right, that led up to you being able to, you know, do that, because, you know, like the, you know, painter says, yes, I charge you that amount of money, madam, but it wasn't for the sitting, it was for a lifetime of experience.
Right. It was the 30 years
And-
leading up to that moment.
Yeah, so
And this
I'm
is, I'll tell
thinking-
you, Kevin, there's another, so one of the things I discovered early on, so I did a persona video probably in February. And what I did was I created a photorealistic persona of an Indian woman, and I found an Indian voice, and I had her tell her story in a Storyvine video, and it freaked people out. They were like, that's weird. I don't want to see this shit. I had an employee say, I don't want to participate in this. This is not cool. This is not kosher. And so I really had to step back and say, like, if Storyvine's about authenticity, then how do you take something that can, will very soon be able to replicate authentic video, and how do you create some transparency? And so that was when I came up with the concept of, okay, if we're going to do video, we can do something like video translation and leave it look like video. But if we're going to be inventing video out of nothing, let's do this stylistically so that it creates a separation so that it doesn't freak people out, because there's a difference between you can
Yep.
do it technically and you should do it,
Well,
or
exactly.
and not even should do it ethically, just should do it in a business environment where it will be accepted, right? So just understanding that nuance was a while, because
Well, I mean,
when it
it's a
freaked
very,
people out, I went away from this for months, because I was like, okay, we can't really touch that. And I've slowly come back to it, but I've been thinking a lot about how do you do this in a way
Yeah, I
that
mean, the
shut people
uncanny
down?
valley that you
Yeah.
were referring to could be so pronounced that people, would just reject it because it's not, it's unfamiliar, it's weird, it's out of sync with, what they think reality is. So I'm going to go to Mike, and I think I heard Sharon's voice, but Mike, what was your first impression when you saw this? How are you reacting to it again, seeing it again today?
still the same reaction. Geez, that's fucking cool. And boy, you can do so. There's a lot of things we can do with that. It is great because it's so evocative. It's powerful as a demonstration of how you stitch together the technologies, you and the team. But I think also, Kyle, it's, as you were speaking about that issue of authenticity, honestly, it's so there is a simple first step, right? Which is just like you see in many television commercials for the last 50 years, when they're drug companies like the one you mentioned, frequently what do? They have an actor on there, and there's a piece of text at the bottom that says, this is an actor reenacting the situation. You now have a synthetic narrative voice. You have a narrative alternative that you can bring out, whether it's, I need a teenage girl, I need a 12-year-old boy voice and image to describe what they're doing with skateboards or whatever. Yeah, I see why you did freak out, because I freaked out early on too when I saw those. I think it was it 2 or 3 years ago, the famous Obama video where it was a deep fake, and you and the guys at South Park are probably some of the only people I would trust with this kind of technology right now, right? Because what they're going to do. But here, and this again, as a business thing, particularly, I wanted to ask you a question about contracting. You said that with those particular companies. Was that an issue that I was familiar with, which is trying to get the official legal permission of somebody to participate, a patient or a doctor in? Is that what you meant when you said contracting?
Yeah. That they've got the right to use it, and in the case, sometimes they'll pay the patients to tell their story and things like that. So it's all that.
But I think that as long as there's that little bug or description, or because we can't assume people will, as you found out,
no,
right?
We can't assume they'll know. I've gone so far as to create an initial draft of I created something that's akin to the MPAA movie rating thing, NC-17 RPG.
Yep.
Where I created, like, RR is real person, real story. RS is real person, simulated story. Simulated person, real story. So I've actually created that would be little bugs that have those things that say what they are underneath them. I don't know if there'll be a desire for that, but I think clearly labeling these things at some point, like you said, is it's not critical to do. It's critical to do in the context of business, so that we can say to a pharma client, it's okay, we've got your back,
And it's from the beginning, from the very first version.
Exactly.
From the very first version.
Yeah.
This potential issue is recognized. Honestly, Kyle, I say this, I get this as a corp com marketing tool. I also see it as it's got to be a snap in to some of these larger marketing platforms. Because I think, we've had to scale a lot of our departments and businesses because we didn't have enough hands, right, to go do something. So now we do. And I'm not saying this is a great thing, because now I can reduce my marketing headcount by 50%. What it means is time. We've always dealt with time being compressed for us. Now what you're able to do is compress time for me as a business or a marketing person. I compress time. I don't have to sit there.
Not only do you compress time, it allows you. A lot of times I hear people talk about AI as a zero-sum game. It's like, if you're generating art, then you're not hiring an artist to do that. No, I'm generating art where I never would have hired an artist in the first place, right? I'm now generating a piece of art that I'll put out there. So this is allowing individuals and small business teams to do significantly more than they had the resources to do before.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Did Sharon, were you trying to join the conversation earlier?
Yes.
Well,
Hi,
please
Kevin.
jump in.
Hi, Kyle.
Glad to have you with us.
Yeah, same here. And good to see you, everybody. And Cindy, I know I need to message you back on LinkedIn. So Kyle, I was really impressed. I do want to say one amusing anecdote, which is I totally believed the water skiing and interpretive dance. So
That's great. That's good.
It didn't sound that unusual to me either. I was like,
I
okay.
was like, wow, that's amazing.
That's great.
That makes sense.
So I guess I want to ask, I'm very struck by what's right behind you where it says authentic, professional, user-generated auto magic video.
Yeah, that's been our tagline for ever.
Yeah,
8
and
years.
then this new thing, which isn't necessarily that.
Yeah, so it's a good point, and it's a balance to strike. And so what I would so there's a couple of things. So the authenticity engine, the thing where you upload a video and it generates the content around it, there are going to be an infinite number of tools where you can generate content. Here's a tweet generator, here's a this generator, here's a that generator. What I'm hanging my hat on with Storyvine is saying we're starting with an authentic story as the core, and then we're expanding, we're creating content around that. So it's an extension of the authentic storytelling that's the core. And same with the other things, even though they're synthesized, in the one case, it was still using Ellen's voice. In the other case, it was still using her story. In the case of the personas were, the framework itself is authentically put together by the client to say, yeah, these are the kind of patients we're looking for, and we want this kind of diversity. And then those personas are answering a set of Storyvine prompts just like a patient would. So the narrative framework that is the core of what Storyvine's done for a decade is still the core of this, and everything is an extension of it. The other advantage of that, and you can argue whether or not
I'm going to stop for just 1 second. So one thing I'm going to do is if you would like, I will volunteer to help you try to synthesize those messages.
Oh, that would be great. Would love.
Yeah, because I think they're very powerful, and I think there is a way to connect them more succinctly.
Great. Love it.
Because I love this auto magic, and I think that doesn't conflict with authentic, but there is some tweaking I think that might be helpful, and I'm volunteering to help you with that because I do believe that this is very, very powerful, what you've shown us, and that the use cases for it far extend beyond. And I can think of so many of even the prototypes, what do you call them? The personas. Like there's a lot of ways of purely monetizing that.
I know. This is part of my challenge right now is I've built this thing where I've got kind of 4 discrete products that are all kind of related, but they're really, really discrete. And I don't quite know right now what problem do they solve and who do they solve it for.
Right.
And that I think is what you're talking. Like I think the opportunity there's big.
Yes,
but I need to navigate that smartly so I don't just get spread too thin, but also I'm not just stuck in the niche that we've been in for a decade.
Yeah. Lots of adjacencies, right?
Yes.
And I'm just gonna there's somebody that you folks don't know who is on the call today. Matt, hello, Matt from Boston.
Hey, Matt.
Hello.
Matt is the head of a consortium that does a lot of work in knowledge management and how that gets applied to customer service engagements, right? And answering questions, from large, medium-sized companies, how do you respond to people when they have questions about the service or product? Matt, what what's going on in your head as you saw this today?
I mean, beyond the cool factor of just
Right.
what it's doing, the way you could apply this in a service environment is, to me, an absolute natural fit for taking all that content that's created by service organizations, wherever they're capturing it, right? Whether it's in ServiceNow or Salesforce or a knowledge repository, and creating short videos from that, and having your staff create short videos from that. And then I love the idea of being able to then make it a more generic automation. So as people come and go from companies, right, you're not trying to maintain some sort of consistency in the video. It's just some generic that is recorded. I mean, is amazing. And the industry is still struggling so much with translation. And how do you do translation in a way that is easy to get done, easy to consume, taking a lot of the human element out of it?
Yep.
I mean, that being able to translate it into a short video like that would be revolutionary. I mean, it really would change how they're trying to deliver content. So I'm kind of blown away by the potential.
Now how much would you pay? $1 billion?
Well, before we get to the how much would you pay, of the four things, like, I'm just curious. So we've got the thing that turned a video into a bunch of text content that will also do, Instagram posts and things like that in the future. We've got the translation piece. We've got taking some existing story and that to life, and then we've got bringing personas to life. Of those four components, which one is the one that feels most significant to you, or do you see them as a blend? I'm just curious what's resonating with you most clearly.
The translation one is probably one that would be the most would hook somebody and say, wow, if I could do that. But to get to the translation, first you have to get them through the stage of, well, how do I take all this content I have and move it into a format that then lets me translate it? So you'd have to back them into that. But I mean, I can think of our members that would love to play with this and say, how might I use this as a new delivery mechanism for knowledge? And what would make it easier for me to do that? And in a way that I can embed into my products as opposed to waiting for somebody to come to me, right? Because that's where we're seeing a lot of our member companies, right, play with AI is in product. I know what you're doing in the product. As you're doing it, I can use AI to pull content and generate it on the fly for you, pulling from multiple sources and create some sort of new type of content on the fly.
We're offering you right now, Matt, all right, the ability to have a special edition of Content Evolution NuWorld just for your members to experience this, right?
Yeah.
Because you're right. I'm delighted to see you here because you would have received a copy of this video. Say, watch this, Matt. Afterward,
it's
because
cool.
The implications are quite good. And Sharon, thank you so much for volunteering to help streamline, Kyle's messaging. He is a genius at the actual narratives and technology. But what's interesting about the early days of Storyvine is people go, this is fantastic. There were two things that held organizations back. First was they thought of so many use cases that they confused themselves, right? And they had to narrow their focus and say, this is the right place to go. A lot of that had to do with sales and marketing, but the patient use cases are great too. And the second was, how do you get people to habituate and use the app in daily life, because you already have a routine, right? And so you have to insert it into the routine to make videos. And Nielsen knew how to do that. They said, all right, here's an interval, here's your diary. You have to record now, right? And
part of the challenge with that, Kevin, was, and this is only in hindsight, Storyvine 1.0, if they took the time to make the video, what they got was a video.
Was a video, exactly.
With this new system, it's almost like, as you said, Matt, oh my God, I want to do all that translation. Wait a minute. in order to do the translation, I got to get people to share their videos in this format so that we can easily do that. So, hey, listen, knowledge output from this point forward is going to happen in 1 to 4 minute chunks. You're going to use this template. We're going to then take that, and that's going to explode into all these different output streams, right? So
when you think about it, Kyle, you're reversing for most people their concept of content creation.
Right.
They get very focused on the arms and legs. I got to get a videographer. I got to do this. I got to get this ready. Then they spend a little time on, all right, so what the hell is it we're going to try to say?
Right.
And in this case, you spend more time on that. And one thing I was going to ask Matt is, I would bet within your user base, customer base, there's a segmentation that already exists, right, Matt? And I would think it would be those of your customers who've gotten very mature processes and have very mature understanding of their schemas, their tagging systems. Those, right, to me would be like, show it to that segment of your customers first, because they'll just go, oh, we've already done the hard work, right? Or the really hard stuff of our dividing our schema. What does it mean for our industry, our customers? To holy moly, right now I can not just, obviously the translation must be a huge cost time savings for any of those organizations, but
it's a
those that have matured
multiplier.
that tagging are going to be able to go really fast.
Yeah, and I think the other hurdle, right, is convincing them of a story video as a good delivery mechanism for very fast moving content change, right? Because in sport and service, the content's changing every day. So how do you quickly and rapidly get from, oh, we have a new problem today, I need this published in the next 3 hours, right? And where does video fit into that? I mean, there's obviously the story. I think it would be an easy sell on the how-tos, the things that don't change. But that's not where the cost in a sports center is, in the escalation reactionary.
Yeah, once you have as Kyle said, once you have the persona created, and you know what that respondent looks and sounds like, you can write a new script, right, with the new problem, and here's what to do, and it's going to come out in that company, because you could create one that this is the you guys, who's old enough to remember the Shell Answer Man?
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because he lived 2 doors down from me in Connecticut, right? And he would come on and say, come to Shell for answers, right? And here's what you do, all right? And he was the head of the advertising agency, and he put himself up as the spokesperson for Shell Oil, and he was the Shell Answer Man. Well, you can create that answer person, right? In a variety of different typologies for a company, and you can write the scripts, they'll speak themselves into existence.
Well, and the other thing, I mean, Storyvine is designed, the initial positioning when we talk about it is Storyvine's a video agility platform. And so you could have your consultants, right? So Kevin's got this template, now, new, next. If he wants to share an idea, he's got this template. Here's what's going on now. Here's what's new about it. Here's what's coming next. He can knock that out in 15 minutes. And so with this thing, you can now have your consultants knock out hey, something just changed in the world. This news event happened. Here's how you should think about it. So not only do they get that video in 15 minutes, 15 minutes after that, you've got all this other stuff, right? And that's where I think this changes things, at least for Storyvine.
Cindy, what do you think?
I feel like it's just for everyone else, I'm slightly quiet because I see Kyle almost on the daily. So on the screens. So I just feel like I've engaged a lot on this, and I really wanted to hear what everybody else thought. I mean, I think for me, the biggest piece out of Kyle's investigation that we're all benefiting from across these ideas is really that last piece you were just saying, which is, it used to just be, we would have you make a video to give you a video. And that's where I see everything right now, is the mind constantly exploding in this space, is really because those of us who are so content heavy and have, decades of content sitting around, I'm already not in a video way, in other ways, doing the same sort of mining and just going, oh my God, I used to think when I got around to this,
Yep.
it would be this. But now instead of the delivery of the this, which is easy, it's plus, 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 plus.
Right.
And that's what's, I just feel like, that, Kyle, you going on this exploration has been really great, and kind of watching you figure out, oh God, this new piece. Because we all get to put it into our own stuff.
Mhm. Yeah.
And, I don't necessarily work with video. That's totally irrelevant. Now it's like
Right.
super like platform agnostic, it's just
And
it's
expertise agnostic,
totally
right? It's democratizing. It's democratizing for each one of us. Each one of us now has the ability to do what I did. Now, right now, it's kind of hard because you have to know the 17 tools to glue together to do
Right.
it. But
right.
a year from now,
Hmm.
it's just going to be like, I want that, and it'll, right?
Right.
So-
And there might still be some gluing. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah,
sort
there
of
will.
imagining, how right now to get real things done, we crisscross across all kinds of software that
Yeah.
there's no one solution for
Yeah.
our whole workload. And we've accepted living that way. We don't go to one land and fix it all. And I think that'll still be going on. And what I think is really interesting, happening right now in this space is those jumping in. It's still not going to be easy as anything, it's my philosophy of my work is completely non-proprietary. You can have it. I give it away completely because I know you won't do it on your own and you'll call me to do it.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I know you've proven over and over. Here it is. Here's exactly step by step how to do it. And you won't. And
Right.
so, that's what's still going to be going on here is we're still going to be the helpers, and we're going to
Sure.
need to be the helpers. And this is why this time is really great right now, because we're coming together. We're talking about, well, how are you figuring this out? And then helping each other and all of our collective knowledge. We're going to be the helpers shortly here when people start panicking in every direction and they will, humans will be panicking soon when they realize
Yep.
what's happened, and they're going to need all of us. So that's what I appreciate most out of this is just this collective learning that, I'm going to be able to take out.
I was thinking, Cindy, as you're a speaker, it's one of the things we might want to do that also, Kyle, I'm happy to help with, that it's not just the user manual, right? It's here's what you need to have in place now to get to be able to leverage Kyle's new tool fully where it is, right?
Oh.
Because, I know we've all lived through this with the companies where their communications, everything is like scattered somewhere, even though they said they organized it or hired, a content officer. It's scattered everywhere. It's assumed to be, disposable because we
Yep.
can't find it, right? Is usually what my experience is.
Yep.
I've said that. I said, hey, your CEO gave this rocking speech like 3 years ago that's still relevant. Where is it? They're like,
Yeah, exactly. That's on
Exactly.
Sally's
And so-
hard drive, and Sally doesn't work.
and
That's right.
this ability, but you're going to have a certain amount of codification of that codified for this to be, and I think your clients that you've talked about, Kyle, in pharmaceuticals are probably have the best like foundation snapshot of you have to be this big to take advantage of this tool,
Yeah, I
right?
mean-
Because they're
Yeah,
so
well,
regulated, they know what they have.
So I think
terms
in the
of
case of
tagging.
pharma, they document everything, so they're in decent shape. But one of the things that I discovered is I took a screenplay I wrote 30 years ago, and within 15 or 20 minutes, I had generated storyboards for the scenes that looked like what I had in my head, brought it to life. It created a casting list of what actors today would play the roles, then drew pictures of the characters. It was like, it totally brought it back to life. So I think one of the things that once you realize what's now possible with your old data, there's an incentive to go find that old data. Because if it was, as Cindy said, if I go find that old data and what I get out is what I put in, then there's not really all that much incentive. But if I go find that data and what I get out is this whole world of stuff, well, I'm going to go find some stuff now, right? Like, so that's a really interesting dynamic here.
I mean, I just think that we continue to lose information. I mean, the early days of filmmaking and the early days of television and early days of radio are essentially, most of it's missing, right?
Yep.
Because we re-recorded over the tapes, or
Yeah,
we did something
exactly.
else with, it was the economics of running TV stations and radio stations and making films, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, if we start to understand that there is a value to accumulation and continuity and reuse, right, then organizations that are in the advisory services, business would realize that the finished product that is available and is indexed, because that's the report.
Right.
What's really interesting is all of the other interviews, all the other raw material that went into the final 10-page report, that there were hundreds of pages of background material that could be repurposed. That is lost on individual hard drives, right? And it needs to be, found and repurposed and accessible in ways that are interesting to organizations, and then interesting potentially to, places like Internet Archive, because they're only archiving the stuff that's ever been, presented publicly, right? And if it's behind a firewall or a paywall or a SCIF or something else, it's somewhat ephemeral. And we're presenting a point of view that, wow, you could really do a lot with this if it was simply available and addressable. So, Kyle, it's remarkable stuff.
Thank you.
You want to bring us in with a final thought as we close out this edition? And by the way, if you guys want to talk to Kyle, anybody's listening to this later, you don't know how to speak to him directly, just reach out to me, reach out to Mike. We're glad to make that connectivity. It's you're doing great work, and thank you for doing that with us as the Chief Generative Officer for Content Evolution. And Cindy, thank you for being the Chief Media Officer for Content Evolution as we create intellectual property in that arena. We're really grateful for that. Kyle, your final thoughts?
Thank you. Thanks. This has been really enlightening. I appreciate your input. And I like the mind, like even in presenting this stuff, like my mind is going in 1,000 places right now. And I think Cindy said it best, like what I'm exploring, right? This is sort of where I landed, today after a year of thinking about this. Like, what's it going to look like even 3 months from now? I don't have a flipping clue. And it's the only thing that feels sort of consistent and appropriate right now, Cindy says this a lot, is just play with this AI stuff, because you never know that the little thing that you played with over here 2 months from now will connect with some other technology, and you'll know how to do that instantly, right? But you'll only be able to connect that dot if you've been playing and if you're sort of actively touching this stuff. So that's the only piece of advice I have is, don't look at anything I've done as, oh, I'm going to go replicate that, because 6 months from now, nothing's going to look like that.
Correct.
Which is also a bit maddening, right? How do you navigate forward in a business where that the foundation underneath our feet is shifting so dramatically? And that I don't have an answer for. So good luck.
But it's a great opportunity, Kyle, because Mark Benioff, Larry, all those guys are looking at their big platforms going,
yep,
how do I keep getting people to send me $500,000 a year for something that they're maybe using 30% of the total capacity of that system?
Yep.
They're all sitting there thinking that right now.
Yep, exactly.
And
so
I'm even using less of my mind than that percentage. So, hey. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Everything you do,
Bye-bye.
be intentional.
Thank you.
We'll
Thanks.
talk again soon. Cheers. Thanks, Kyle.
Right.
Bye.
Thank you.
Cheers.